Move now to major speaker, which is Michele Campisi from CNR. He's talking about the energetics of quantum computation. Thank you so much for having accepted the invitation. The floor is yours.
Actually, so thank you for inviting me and for giving me the opportunity to share the results of my research with the community. It's in fact a good opportunity for me to let the other players let them know about what is the research activity here at the Institute for Nanoscience of CNR in Pisa. So as you can see from the title of my talk, I will talk about the energetics of quantum computation, and I think this is a topic that has not been touched earlier in the workshop, but I think it's a relevant one. So the main idea is, that inspires this research is that while we are looking for, so to speak, computational advantage, we should also keep in mind of what are the resources that are needed for quantum devices, and in particular, what is the energetic footprint of quantum systems and devices. So it's important for, I think, and this idea is shared by a good group of researchers, that thermodynamics of quantum computers or of quantum information processing is an important topic, especially in view of the concerns about global warming and climate changes. We have to be aware that technology, as new technology develops, it's important to learn about the energetic aspects of it. So coming more now to the specific topic of my of this talk, the idea here that I am that inspires the research is that if on one hand, in order to develop better quantum computers, so you have to learn how to attain noise and fluctuations, and you have to learn how to attain both thermal and quantum fluctuations. So basically, if on one hand, quantum thermodynamics is important for advancing quantum computing, on the other hand, it is also true, and I want to show you that quantum computing itself can be useful to advance understanding of quantum and thermodynamic fluctuations. So we can give rise to a virtuous circle where both fields basically improve each other. So let me start with this arrow here, showing how quantum computers can help advancing understanding of thermodynamics at the quantum level. So I would like to present results from a recent work that has been published in this year in PRX Quantum. This is a work that I have done in collaboration with two bright students who were at the University of Florence. Now they are both PhD at CISA. And in this work, what we did is we employed a quantum computer basically as an experimental platform that can be programmed remotely and use it to verify theoretical predictions in non-equilibrium quantum thermodynamics. Some of them were verified experimentally earlier, but some of them were not. So basically, we are using quantum computers to do experimental physics in a very, so to speak, economical manner and also fast manner. And specifically, we checked the validity of certain fluctuation relations. So let me just show you very briefly, tell you a little bit about what a quantum fluctuation relation is. Probably, not all of the people in the audience know about them. So fluctuation relations are exact relations in non-equilibrium thermodynamics that, so to speak, generalize the well-known fluctuation dissipation theorem, which is basically linear response theory, So we are all very familiar with linear response, but linear response is only valid in first order perturbative theory, whereas these relations here that I am addressing are exact relations. They have been attracting a lot of attention recently. So in this slide, I kind of translate their content in a language of quantum circuits. So the idea is the following. Imagine you have a system that is initially in a thermal state. You see my point, right? I guess. So imagine that you have your system in a thermal state, and
yes, we see.
Yeah, and at time zero, you perform a measurement, projective measurement of the energy of your system, and you get some eigenvalue. I call it En. Of course, you get that with according to the Gibbs probability. Then after this outcome has been produced, you let your system evolve according to some time-dependent Hamiltonian. So you apply a pulse, so to speak, and that generates some unitary evolution U, after which, at the end of the driving, you measure the energy again, and you get another eigenvalue, En. So both En and Em are stochastic quantities, and also their difference, which is actually the work that you have injected in the system to run it, is a stochastic quantity that obeys some probability distribution P of W. So clearly, the properties of this probability distribution depend. They depend on the unitary gate. So, for example, first moment, second moment, they all depend on the kind of driving that you are doing. If it is, if it is shaking your system very far away from equilibrium, or if it is very, gentle, that the distribution will be affected. But there is one average quantity, which is here, the average of E2 minus beta W, which is unaffected by the kind of unitary that, by the details of the unitary. So this is what is known as the integrated quantum fluctuation relation. There is an interesting story about it. This relation was first discovered in 1977 by Russian scientists. Then it remained basically unknown in the Western world. It was rediscovered by Dzerzhinsky in 20 years later. In fact, it is mostly well known as Dzerzhinsky identity. And 3 years later, so Dzerzhinsky found this relation within classical mechanics, and a few years later, Kurchan and Tazaki independently gave the quantum version, which is what I'm showing here. So this was year 2000. But we had to wait until 2014 to see this relation here being experimentally tested in the quantum realm. And this was done by a Chinese group who used the trapped ion system to do that. So we thought, with those students, we thought, okay, why not using a quantum computer to test this non-equilibrium thermodynamic relation? So if you try and see if you can implement such a test on a quantum computer, gate model quantum computer, you soon realize that there are two issues that you have to overcome. First one is that the input state of circuits is typically a pure state, so you have to generate the thermal state, which is part of this picture. And second, which is mostly, which is more important problem, typically the first projective measure will destroy your circuit, and you will not be able to proceed farther. No? Typically, the measurement occurs only at the end of the circuits, and because as we all know, projective measurements can be very invasive. So one of the students came up with a so there has been in the literature, there has been some strategies have been developed to overcome this problem of the destructive projective measurement. One of them is using interferometry. It's pretty complicated, but one of the students came up with a very simple idea. It's so simple that I thought this, it's impossible. Somebody else should have been, thinking about it earlier, but actually no, nobody thought about such a simple solution to the problem of first measurement. So the idea is the following. Basically, you add a second, for example, in this case, we have qubits. So you want to make a measurement on this qubit Q0, you add the second one, you call it Q1, that's an ancillary system, and before running the unitary, you entangle the two qubits. You apply an entangling operation that creates this state here. So what does this entangling operation do is to basically imprint the information about the state of your qubit into the ancillary qubit. So after you have done this imprinting, you read your unitary run, and you make the measurement of the final energy of your system, and you retrieve the initial energy of your qubit by making a measurement on the ancillary qubit. So now I'm saying this all in words, but it's actually, one can prove that the statistics of the difference of these two eigenvalues obtained in this manner is exactly the same as you would obtain with the standard circuit that I've shown here, this one, which is called two-point measurement scheme. Our scheme here is called ancilla-assisted two-point measurement scheme. We have an ancilla that helps. And you see, this entangling operation also creates the wanted thermal state for the qubit, because if you look at the marginal distribution of this state, it's actually a thermal state. So it solves the two issues at the same time. Okay, now we have a method to run this projective measurement on a quantum chip. What we did is we used the IBM cube to check the validity of the Jardinsky identity using our method. And in fact, meanwhile, IBM also released a new version of the hardware where one can also perform intermediate measurements. So we said, okay, let's benchmark our method against the one provided by IBM, and basically here are the results. You see that the Jardinsky equality is obeyed very well within the error for both methods. So this really, what this graph says is that the method is validated. It works. Our method works. And so what our next step was, okay, let's use it to check some relation that was not experimentally addressed before. This one was addressed, the Jardinsky identity, but something like 10 years ago, I published two papers where I've been showing that the fluctuation relation is robust to intermediate projective measurement. So if you interrupt the evolution with projections, that will alter the statistics of the work, but it will not affect the validity of the fluctuation relation. So it should continue to work. Basically, no one addressed this problem from the experimental point of view. For 10 years, there has been no experiment checking on this. And we implemented it on the IBM Q using the possibility now, which is very recent, to perform intermediate measurement. And we actually checked that the Jardinsky equality is in fact obeyed even in presence of these very invasive actions. And here on the bottom right, you see our data, experimental data for the average exponentiated work, both with our ancilla-assisted method and the standard method provided by IBM, and it works very well. Okay, so I think I'm already almost out of time, right?
So you still have 5 minutes. you can leave some for questions. But if you have some additional remark,
I just want to skim then very quickly on this on the other side of the loop, because I was telling that on the other hand, quantum thermodynamic knowledge can help improving quantum computation, and we apply this idea to a quantum annealer, in fact, to the D-wave system. So we see D-wave from a thermodynamic point of view as a quantum system which is in contact with a thermal bath, because it's a noisy device on which one can act by changing some parameter, which is the annealing parameter, and it can be prepared in some state. So if you prepare the chip in a thermal state, then the whole thing is nothing but a thermal machine. You see, an object that exchanges heat with a cold bath, a hot bath, and a work source. And we know that for such systems, quantum thermal machines, which get energy in the form of work from an outside agent, and which goes part in the system and part in the bath as delta E1 and delta E2 amounts of energy. We know that there is a fluctuation relation for those quantities, for those energies. So one can use this relation to learn something about, for example, delta E2, the energy that goes in the bath. This is impossible to measure, whereas delta E1, the energy that goes into the chip, this can be measured. So by using this relation that links the statistics of these joint statistics and contains the correlation about them, so by measuring only delta E1, one can get information about delta E2. And if you have information about delta E2, you also have information about the work that is injected. So basically, very quickly, we used a relation that has been put forward very recently. It's called the thermodynamic uncertainty relation that links the entropy production, which is defined here as basically this linear combination of the energy going into the chip and into the bath, rescaled by their initial temperatures. And there is a lower bound which is expressed only in terms of the statistics of the energy change of the chip, which can be measured, and which we did measure actually on D-wave. So by using this relation, if I can move to the next slide, yes, I can. One can get those bounds and can learn about the energy that is going into the bath. So we did the measurement for reverse annealing experiments for various reverse annealing parameters, and basically we learned about, at least learned bounds about entropy production, work being expanded, and energy being dissipated into the bath during such processes. So we learned that the D-wave works as a thermal accelerator. Energy goes from hot to cold, and you spend work to have that, and we learn basically that there is a lot of dissipation going on if you cross a critical point. In our case, that was at 1/2. But okay, let me stop here, and thank you again for the kind invitation.
Thank you so much for this very deep talk. I see maybe I see that Sebastiano has a question.
Yes, I have a
very short question, please.
Yes, it's actually a naive question. So I noticed that you described your protocol to verify the thermodynamic relation on the IBM computers using 1 qubit and 1 auxiliary qubit. So my question is naive. Does the protocol also scale up? Could you use it for more qubits?
In principle, yes.
Oh.
Yes. The problem is the ancillary, let's say the bottleneck is that the ancillary system must have the same dimension in terms of Hilbert space as the system that you want to probe. So if your system is composed of 10, you have to have 20 on the chip, because you have to have a copy, basically, of the system that you want to probe.
Okay.
Other methods, like interferometric methods, scale much better because they use only single qubit, but they have other drawbacks because you want to squeeze a lot of information in a single degree, so there are other issues there. For a small number of qubits, this is definitely the best choice. For big numbers, we have to see in detail.
Let me thank again the speaker. Thank you so much.
Thanks.